Welcome, one and all, to another episode of Ask a Ghost Hunter with me, your host, ghost hunter and author, Rick Hale. A common complaint that I hear a lot of in the paranormal community is that a lot of the equipment that we use in the field as ghost hunters, paranormal investigators, parapsychologists, whatever you choose to call us, I like the term ghost hunter. It's kind of an older fashioned. It's an old fashioned term. Um, but one of the biggest complaints that I oftentimes hear in the paranormal community is that a lot of the equipment that is used to investigate a haunting can be very, very expensive and extremely pricey. For a lot of people, it's not always possible to, be able to afford the latest equipment. Now, we don't have network televisions that are net television networks that are backing us up, or production companies that are backing us up, TV shows, documentaries, whatever. We don't have that kind of a thing, so we kind of have to rely upon different ways where we can investigate hauntings and come up with the best possible evidence that we can come up with. And when I first started my career as a ghost hunter, way back in yesteryear of 1991, back then we didn't have a whole lot at our disposal. I remember my uncle, who was an electrician for Commonwealth Edison, pretty much throughout the entirety of the 80s and the 90s. He did have an EMF detector, but this EMF detector was this big, huge box, and it was like wood and metal, and it had dials, and it had like knobs and stuff like that, and two little probes that came out on wires, and you could touch something and you would see if it was giving off a high electromagnetic field. We really didn't Nobody really would want to use something like that in the field, because it was, not only was it very expensive, it was also big, boxy, and awkward to use. So when I did my very first investigation, actually my very first few investigations, I didn't have things like EMF detectors or anything of that nature. So basically all I had was a legal pad and a blue pen to write down whatever my findings or whatever my impressions were. There were people that did use equipment in the field, and one of those first ghost hunters to ever use any kind of equipment in the field to investigate hauntings and to come up with evidence was, of course, Harry Price. And a lot of the things that he used back then, we do use today. So that is the kind of the thing that I wanted to talk about here this week, was ghost hunting on a budget, because you may not you can use these techniques, but they're a lot cheaper, and you may not really necessarily come up with something that you can show the world. But I'll also get to that, why you can use this also with more modern day equipment. So let's get into it. The first one that I've been using for a very long time is the water bowl Ouija board. Now, I know that sounds really strange, and I know that a lot of people are going to be like, oh my God, the Ouija board. You use this and you accidentally open yourself up to all kinds of evil spirits, and you might rip open a dimensional doorway and allow hell to show up. Well, I personally don't believe that about the Ouija board. And it certainly doesn't apply to what I call water bowl Ouija board. So this is a technique that I have used for years. And what you do is, it's very cheap, and you can find the materials that you need around the house. And if you don't have them, you can go to your local grocery store and find the materials that you need for this. Basically, you just need like a bowl of water and two slips of paper that you can put one on each side of the bowl. You can write yes on one side and no on another. And then you take like a wine cork and you put a needle into the wine cork and then set it in the water. And the whole idea behind this is that the spirit is able to manipulate that cork with the needle into it, either to a yes or a no answer. And you can ask these kind of questions. Are you a male? Hopefully it can move it to either a yes or a no. It's really easy for spirits to use because of course water is involved, and one of the theories is that spirits react very well around water. But there's also a theory too that they don't react so well around water too. But this is a technique that I have been using for many years, and it's actually worked great. And it especially really works for people who have a psychic ability as well. They're able to channel that through the spirit and give the spirit the energy that they need to be able to manipulate that cork to move it over to a yes or a no answer. Another one that's really easy to use and also is very cheap is a compass. Now, compasses have been used for centuries, and what they do is that they measure the Earth's magnetic field, so you can get get like true north and follow a compass wherever you may need to go, kind of like an old school GPS. Well, believe it or not, you can also use a compass in the ghost hunting world as well. This is another one where ghosts are able to manipulate that needle. They can turn it around, they can turn it forward, they can turn it backwards, they can give you answers. It can be used as a source of communication. I've been using this for many years. I have a little compass that I use. You don't even really need the big expensive compasses. Just like a small little pocket compass that you put on your keychain will work, and you can use that as a means of communication. A next technique that I've used for a long time are strips of fabric. Now I know that sounds kind of strange, but it's actually very practical. What you do is you rip off strips of fabric, say from a sheet. It's like a bed sheet. It's very very thin, very light, and you hang it from the ceiling. And you can do many different strips of the fabric hanging from the ceiling. Make sure that when you hang it from a ceiling, make sure that you're in a room with no breeze, no air vents. If the air is on, turn it off while you do this experiment. And I have actually used this and watched as something moved through the field of fabric, stopped, did a circle, and then moved back the way that it came. It was, to be perfectly honest with you, it was one of the most extraordinary things that I have ever seen as a longtime paranormal investigator and ghost hunter. And it's one of those where you have an old bed sheet, just rip it apart, use it, tape it from the ceiling, thumbtack it from the ceiling. But if you're in a home, please make sure that you get permission before you do that first. And another one that you're going to need permission to use is baby powder on a floor. This one can be used for two different reasons. You have people that claim, well, I hear footsteps. Put a little bit of baby powder on the floor. Of course, get permission if you're in a private home or a business. And people have actually sworn by it, and I've used it myself, that they have caught what looks like phantom footsteps moving through the baby powder that is on the floor. Another good one to use for that to use this too is that it can also pick up little animals that might be moving across the floor as well. So you could have rats or mice or any other kind of wild animal that could be in your house and not even know it, and you're hearing this thing and they walk across the baby powder. You'll be able to pick that up. And last but not least, one of my favorites, and this is one that has been used for a very long time in ghost hunting and paranormal investigation, are bells of any kind. I prefer a concierge bell. Now, a concierge bell, as we all know, is one of those bells where you press the button, it goes ding, and somebody shows up to assist you. This is another one that I've been using for many years, and I've had really great results for. You can use it again as a means of communication. Ask a question, ding, and they're able to hit that button and sound the bell. And it's quite shocking when you're on an investigation and you actually do get responses using this concierge bell. And these are all five of these are techniques that you can use. They're very, very cheap. You don't have to go out and spend a boatload of cash on buying the latest equipment. So I mean, if you're like me and you are on a budget, you can use these things, and you'll be able to hunt ghosts to your heart's content. So I hope that people will actually use these. And believe me when I say this, I'm not trying to put Ghost Stop or anything like that out of business. I've actually been accused of trying to do that in the past by doing this subject on old podcasts, and that's just not the case at all. You can use these very, very old school techniques along with modern techniques as well. I mean, every little bit helps in order to get that, really great evidence that something is in fact haunting a house. And so that's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Next week I will return with a new show, and you'll never know what I'll be talking about. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you use these, and I hope that you get great results while on an investigation. And as always, my friends, stay spooky.